Mark chapter 8 says this: About this time another large crowd had gathered, and the people ran out of food again. Jesus called his disciples and told them, I feel sorry for these people. They have been here with me 3 days and have nothing left to eat. If I send them home hungry, they will faint along the way, for some of them have come a long distance. His disciples replied, How are we supposed to find enough food to feed them out here in the wilderness? Jesus asked, How much bread do you have? 7 loaves, they replied. So Jesus told all the people to sit down on the ground. Then he took the 7 loaves, thanked God for them, and broke them into pieces. He gave them to his disciples, who distributed the bread to the crowd. A few small fish were found too. So Jesus also blessed these and told the disciples to distribute them. They ate as much as they wanted. Afterward, the disciples picked up 7 large baskets of leftover food. There were about 4,000 people in the crowd that day. And Jesus sent them home after they had eaten. Immediately after this, he got into the boat with his disciples and crossed over to the region of Dalmanutha. This is the second time that Jesus feeds the multitudes. In Mark chapter 6, it describes when Jesus fed 5,000. And now in Mark chapter 8, he's feeding 4,000. What's really interesting is the numbers of 5 and 4,000 were only counting the men, not the women and children. So there's probably way more than were even 5 or 4,000 that were there. What's amazing about this story was for people, these disciples, they followed Jesus for 3 days, and Jesus said, I feel compassion for them because they're going to faint on the way home. They haven't eaten for 3 days. And what's really cool is Jesus, it said that he had compassion on them. What I love about Jesus is he's compassionate. The Bible describes Jesus as compassionate, slow to anger, and abounding in love. He's patient and he's merciful. And we see that really cool is Jesus multiplied what little they had. And when you give something to God, maybe it's only a little bit of faith, maybe it's only a little bit of resources. When you offer him something, he can multiply and do far more abundantly than anything that you can ask or think with that. What's amazing is I actually heard a story multiple times of God multiplying food even in today. A church that I know about, the youth pastor there was telling me one day they were given a cookout and they were out of food. They were running out of food. And next thing you know, they looked down and the baskets were full of food and they had so much to give out. Another ministry that feeds the homeless, they were running out of food and the same thing happened. Boom, God multiplied the food. So I believe God can do this miracle totally today. God is a miracle worker. What I don't understand about this story though was just 2 chapters earlier, Jesus fed 5,000. And yet they're still saying, Jesus, what are we going to do? The disciples still said, how are we going to find enough food? Did they not remember what Jesus had just done? I think that's amazing. The disciples had little faith, and that encourages me sometimes.